get started on the conversation, we're talking about Sri Lanka and Singapore and the ties that we have. When we look at the bilateral trade part of the story, how has that evolved over the years?
So Singapore-Sri Lanka free trade agreement was signed in 2018, January 23rd, but it actually came into effect in May 2018. And since then, Sri Lanka and Singapore have been having exchange of programs, knowledge of wealth coming towards Sri Lanka, and trade missions from Sri Lanka to Singapore has evolved. It's amazing what has gone on between Singapore and Sri Lanka since 2018. It's quite a journey. Yeah. So Singapore has been highlighted as Singapore has been identified as a key partner in the ASEAN region, that is tying up India, Malaysia, UAE and Singapore. So they have played a huge role there. The Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Council, I think every year there is a mission going from here to Singapore, or there is a mission coming from Singapore to Sri Lanka, bringing many investors here of different trades. And from here as well, different investors go to Singapore every year. Platform has been set, and I think every year Singapore Business Council has been taking many new entrepreneurs on board from Sri Lanka to Singapore. And likewise, we have seen more investors, different investors coming from Singapore
to our shores.
Yeah, to our shores.
Sri Lanka and Singapore have been enjoying a lot of trade relations over the years. We spoke about all of this and more with Nirupa Peiris. Stay tuned.
Some bonds give more returns. Get more security and more interest on your fixed deposits from Sri Lanka's largest finance company, LMDtv Finance.
The latest issue of LMD is available at lmdmall.lk. You can also access the digital version on Press Reader, Maxter, our social media platforms and WhatsApp. The Voice of Business, a legacy of 30 years.
Hello and welcome to LMDtv. The topic of conversation today is Sri Lanka-Singapore trade, and I'm here with Nirupa Peiris, who is the Vice President of the Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Nirupa, it's very nice to have you with us.
It's a pleasure and thank you.
To get started on the conversation, we're talking about Sri Lanka and Singapore and the ties that we have. Now, the two countries have been enjoying diplomatic relations for a long time. Yeah. But when we look at the bilateral trade part of the story, how has that evolved over the years?
Okay, so Singapore-Sri Lanka free trade agreement was signed in 2018, January 23rd, but it actually came into effect in May 2018. And since then, Sri Lanka and Singapore has been having exchange of programs, knowledge of wealth coming towards Sri Lanka, and trade missions from Sri Lanka to Singapore has evolved. And I have some statistics which I have brought from, which I've obtained from the Chamber of Commerce, and also I have obtained from Sri Lanka Customs, if I may.
Yes,
give
please.
you.
Thank you.
So actually, this trade agreement was signed that is to facilitate trade investment between the two nations, and the key provisions aimed at enhancing economic cooperations, and that eliminates 80% of tariff lines, right? And implementing this reduction over a period of 15 years. So, which is a huge plus, I think, for us. So, also we have these agreements, these details which I obtained from Sri Lanka Customs. It includes measures to protect Singaporean investors and their investments in Sri Lanka, reinforcing bilateral investment security and economic ties. We have actually Singapore was the 22nd largest export destination for Sri Lanka.
It's in 2023.
In 2023.
Right.
And in 2023, Sri Lanka exports to Singapore amounting to US dollars 117.15 million. worth, while imports from Singapore to reach Sri Lanka amounting to US dollars 863.38 million, making it the fourth largest source of imports to Sri Lanka. So, of course, during COVID and all that, that was a different story.
Yes.
And the products that we export from Sri Lanka to Singapore, I'll tell you about the 2020, the most recent was mineral fuels, oils and products of their distillation, tea, coffee, meat and spices, cereals, essential oils, then articles of apparels and clothing accessories, fish and shellfish and it goes on. Yeah, maybe the Singapore chili crab, because the Sri Lankan crabs are used there. Yeah. Where imports are concerned, we also bring natural and cultural pearls, chemical products, nuclear reactors, boilers, organic chemicals, and stuff like that. So it's amazing what has gone on between Singapore and Sri Lanka since 2018. It's quite a journey. Yeah.
Nirupa, if I ask you, I mean, it's quite a fruitful journey. What do you observe as the most significant positives regarding bilateral trade ties between the two countries?
So Singapore has been highlighted as Singapore has been identified as a key partner in the ASEAN region, that is tying up India, Malaysia, UAE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and Singapore. Right. So they have played a huge role there. And Singapore is supplying petroleum to petroleum products to Sri Lanka, and also supporting trade routes. That has been the most important factor between Singapore and Sri Lanka. Yeah, I think that's the most positive. Yeah.
So obviously, being the devil's advocate, I would also like to ask you the challenges, that the two countries are facing in terms of ties.
Oh, challenges! I think I have quite a list. If I may bring the list up. So logistics is a challenge. That has been a huge challenge. Also, including tax structures.
Okay.
Yeah, and increase of costs, clearance delays.
These are all from our side.
And also for security in the airports and all that stuff. That gives delays. It's mostly the infrastructure that has contributed to the challenges, and checks and security checks, and these factors compound by infrastructure issues like road congestions, fuel shortages. That has happened in the past. That can affect trade.
And these are the ones that we have to overcome as well.
These are things that we have to overcome. Yeah. So far, these are the challenges that we have had.
It's time now to take a very short break, but we'll soon be back to talk more about Singapore and Sri Lanka.
Display your brand message on digital screens at prime locations. The largest digital advertising network in Sri Lanka. Emerging media.
Welcome back to the show. We're in conversation with Nirupa Peiris, who is a Vice President of the Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. And looking at the challenges, because there are many, what should Sri Lanka do to overcome them and actually strengthen the ties between the two countries?
Okay, so going by what I said to you earlier on the earlier question, infrastructure facilities is compulsory. Upgrading transport networks, such as ports, roads, airports, and essential to facilitate smooth operations. That would actually reduce trade delays. So that's one of them. Then lead time reductions. We take a long time in customs, approving, all that stuff. So that if we have an advanced tracking system, online system, those are things that can enhance this proper management of it. So trade facilitation, simplifying regulations and ensuring transparent processes, that will enhance trade facilitation efforts for sure. Then custom clearances, that's a humongous thing.
And these are not challenges you can overcome overnight.
Yes, yeah. So if you can modernize customs procedures by incorporating advanced technology, that would be a plus point as well. Importance of imports. Imports are critical to the sustainability of key sectors in Sri Lanka, like fuel and stuff like that, such as energy, manufacturing, which depend on essential goods like refined petroleum and textiles. Yeah, so the trade agreements for technological advancement, if we leverage trade agreements with technological advanced nations like Singapore, they are much advanced than us, can be a pathway to technological progress and increased trade dynamism.
Like that knowledge sharing.
Yeah,
can
knowledge
happen.
sharing, they can introduce their systems to us, and then we move forward.
There's a lot to do. I don't know how difficult or easy that is, but there's definitely a lot to do.
Definitely, yes.
So we spoke of what needs to be done to overcome the challenges, like from a Sri Lankan point of view. Now, we've always seen that streamlining processes to allow Sri Lankan investors to go to, and entrepreneurs of course, to go to Singapore and to do business. Streamlining this process has always been a discussion topic. How is the situation looking like now in terms of people going to Singapore from here?
Okay, so Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Council is a direct result of the Sri Lanka National Trade Policy that was signed in 2017. So this is the first tangible result of that. And since then we have been, the Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Council, I think every year there is a mission going from here to Singapore, or there is a mission coming from Singapore to Sri Lanka, bringing many investors here of different trades. And from here as well, different investors go to Singapore every year. So from, if I may give you more clarity on it, so it allows Sri Lanka to participate in production value chains involving 32 ASEAN members that are already partnering with Singapore. Because they are already signed up FTAs with Singapore. So that gives us access to their 32 members already. So
that's a big stepping stone.
That's a huge stepping stone. And also, there's learning, there's between the two two countries, exchanging learning, and also easier market access, also facilitate partnerships. Also we have through trade missions, we would we have opportunities to networking sessions, and those are really, really important. And also it will additionally provide legal clarity, protection for investments and investors, including intellectual property rights and enforceable dispute resolution mechanisms. So those things would encourage partnerships and networking opportunities with local business in Singapore through trade mission and business forums that can help entrepreneurs build essential connections and understand the market better.
So the platform has been set.
Platform has been set, and I think every year Singapore Business Council has been taking many new entrepreneurs on board from Sri Lanka to Singapore. And likewise, we have seen more investors, different investors coming from Singapore
to our shows.
Yeah, to our shows. Yeah.
Nirupa, I mean, it's been an amazing conversation because there's a really good relationship based on a lot of history. Then there's a lot of positives, platforms, processes, but also, like you mentioned, some significant challenges that we are yet to overcome. So, unfortunately, our time is almost up. But before I let you go, if I can ask you to share your concluding thoughts with our audience.
Okay, so as a vice president, one of the vice presidents of the Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Council, I would encourage entrepreneurs to get on board with Singapore Business Council and see what's out there, because I would say it's a huge step for any entrepreneur to move forward with us. And also I would encourage the Sri Lankan government who would be appointed, elected, to strengthen these ties and also look at the digitalization of all those little things that I spoke of.
The challenges.
The challenges, so that it will smoothen the operations and actually tie up our trade associations and what is in line with the FTA, so that investments can come in and entrepreneurs can go there, and we'll have a good relationship
and reap all that potential that is there.
Yeah, there's so much out there. Yes.
Thank you. We've been in conversation with Nirupa Peiris, who is the Vice President of the Sri Lanka-Singapore Business Council of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. Nirupa, it was such a lovely conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all our viewers for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram and X. Thank you for watching and stay safe.